Sattva-guna, Raja-guna, and Tamo-guna. Then, as the supreme supersoul, as the supersoul, he enters each body and influences the qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, using Sattva-guna for the maintenance, Raja-guna for creation, and Tamo-guna for annihilation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although material nature is conducted by the three qualities, Sattva guna, Raja guna, and Tamo guna, nature is not independent. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, Maya dakshena pakriti surite sacharacharam etananena mukteya jagat viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. The difference changes in the material world take place as actions and reactions of the three gunas. But above the three gunas is their director, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the various types of bodies given to the living entities by material nature, Yantra Rudrani Mayaya, either Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, or Tamo Guna is prominent. The body is produced by material nature according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, it is said here, Yada Shishrik Su Pura Atmana Para, indicating that the body is certainly created by the Lord. Karmana Daiva Netrina, according to the karma of the living entity, a body is prepared under the Supreme Lord's supervision. Whether the body is of Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, or Tamo Guna, everything is done by the direction of the Supreme Lord through the agency of the external energy, Pritak Sva Maya. In this way, in different types of bodies, the Lord, Ishvara, gives directions as Paramatma. And again, to destroy the body, he employs the Tamoguna. This is the way the living entities receive different types of bodies. Text number 11. Kalam Charantam Srijatisa Ashrayam. Pradana Pum Vayam Naradeva Satya Krit. O great king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of the material and spiritual energies, who is certainly the creator of the entire cosmos, creates the time factor to allow the material energy and the living entity to act within the limits of time. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is never under the time factor, nor under the material energy. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One should not think that the Lord is dependent on the time factor. He actually creates the situation by which material nature acts and by which the conditioned soul is placed under the material nature. Both the conditioned soul and the material nature act within the time factor, but the Lord is not subject to the actions and reactions of time, for time has been created by him. To be more clear, Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur says that creation, maintenance, and annihilation are all under the supreme will of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 4.7, the Lord says, Yada yada hi dharmasya, glanir bhavati bharata, avayuttanam adharmasya, tadatmanam srijam. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Since Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the controller of everything, when he appears, he is not within the limitations of material time. Janma karma chame divyam. In this sense, the words kalam charantam shijatisa ashrayam indicate that although the Lord acts within time, whether sattvaguna, rajaguna, or tamaguna, is prominent, one should not think that the Lord is under the time control. Time is within his control, for he creates time to act in a certain way. He is not working under the control of time. And that's very interesting. He's not working under the control of time. The creation of the material world is one of the Lord's pastimes. Everything is fully under his control. Since creation takes place when Rajaguna is prominent, the Lord creates the necessary time to give facilities for the Rajaguna. Similarly, he also creates the necessary times for maintenance and annihilation. Thus, this verse establishes that the Lord is not under the limitations of time. That's interesting. It's not under the limitations of time. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller, Satchitananda Vigraha. He possesses a blissful spiritual body, Anadi. He is not subordinate to anything. As the Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita 7.7, Matak Parataram Nanyat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Dhananjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Nothing can be above Krishna, for he is the controller and the creator of everything. The Mayavadi philosophers say that this material world is mithya, false, and that one should therefore not bother about this mithya creation. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. But this is not correct. Here it is said, Satyakrit, whatever is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Satyam Param, cannot be called Mithya. The cause of the creation is Satya, true, So how can the effect of the cause be mithya, meaning false? The very word satyakrit is used to establish that everything created by the Lord is factual, never false. The creation may be temporary, but it is not false. See, there's so many speculations of so-called um, um,
Philosopher.
yeah, there's so many speculations. So here, uh, Prabhupada is making statements to clarify what is the truth and what is not the truth. Text 12. Okay, this time factor enhances the sattva guna. Thus, although the Supreme Lord is the controller, he favors the demigods, who are mostly situated in sattva guna. Then the demons, who are influenced by tamoguna, are annihilated. The Supreme Lord induces the time factor to act in different ways, but he is never partial. Rather, his activities are glorious, and therefore he is called Uru Strava. Uru Strava. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:29, Samaham Sarvabhutesu na me dveso sti na priya. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. The Supreme Personality Godhead cannot be partial. He is always equal to everyone. Therefore, when the demigods are favored and the demons killed, this is not his partiality, but the influence of the time factor. A good example in this regard is that an electrician connects both a heater and a cooler to the same electrical energy. The cause of the heating and cooling is the electrician's manipulation of the electrical energy according to his desire. But factually, the electrician has nothing to do with causing heat or cold, nor with the enjoyment or suffering that results. There have been many historical incidents in which the Lord killed a demon, but the demon attained a higher position by the mercy of the Lord. Putana is an example. Putana's purpose was to kill Krishna. Aho Bhakti Yam Stana Kala Kutam. She approached the house of Nanda Maharaja with the purpose of killing Krishna by smearing poison on her breast. Yet, when she was killed, she attained the highest position, achieving the status of Krishna's mother. Krishna is so kind and impartial that because he sucked Putana's breast, he immediately accepted her as his mother. This superfluous activity of killing Putana did not diminish the Lord's impartiality. He is Suridam Sarvabhutanam, the friend of everyone. Therefore, partiality cannot apply to the character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always maintains his position as the Supreme Controller. The Lord killed Putana as an enemy, but because of his killing the Supreme, but because of his being the Supreme Controller, she attained an exalted position as his mother. Srila Madhava Muni therefore remarks, Kale Kala Vishaya Pisita Tehadi Karan Atvat
Karananvat. Karanat.
Shiranikam Eva Stitam Sattvam. Ordinarily, a murderer is hanged, and the Manusamhita is said that that a king bestows mercy upon a murderer by killing him, thus saving him from various kinds of suffering. Because of his sinful activities, such a murderer is killed by the mercy of the king. Krishna, the supreme judge, deals with the matters in a similar way because he is the supreme controller. The conclusion, therefore, is that the Lord is always impartial and always very kind to all living entities. Okay, text 13. Formerly, O king, when Maharaja Yudhishthira was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, the great sage Narada, responding to his inquiry, recited historical facts showing how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always impartial, even when killing demons. In this regard, he gave a vivid example. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This relates to how the Lord exhibited his impartiality even when killing Sisupala in the arena of the Rajasuya Yajna performed by Maharaja Yudhishthira. O king, at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Maharaj Yudhishthira, the son of Maharaj Pandu, personally saw Sisupala merge into the body of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Therefore, struck with wonder, he inquired about the reason for this from the great sage Narada, who was seated there. While he inquired, all the sages present also heard him ask his question. Okay, you ask questions and you get proper answers. That means you learned something. Maharaja Yudhishthira inquired, it is very wonderful that the demon Sisupala merged into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though extremely envious, this Sayuja Mukti is impossible to attain even for great transcendentalists. How then did the enemy of the Lord attain it?
Hmm.
Good question. Very good question. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are two classes of transcendentalists, the Gyanis and the Bhaktas. The Bhaktas do not aspire to merge into the existence of the Lord, but the Gyanis do. Sisupala, however, was neither a Gyani nor a Bhakta, yet simply by envy, oh my God, simply by envy of the Lord, he attained an exalted position by merging into the Lord's body. Certainly, this was astonishing, and therefore Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired about the cause for the Lord's mysterious mercy of Sisupala. Very, very good question. Let's see what the answer is. Text 17. O great sage, we are all eager to know the cause for this mercy of the Lord. I have heard that formerly a king named Venu blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that all the Brahmanas consequently obliged him to go to hell. Sisupala should also have been sent to hell. How then did he merge into the Lord's existence? Okay, a very good question. Text 18. From the very beginning of his childhood, when he could not even speak properly, Sisupala, the most sinful son of Dhamagosha, began blaspheming the Lord, and he continued to be envious of Sri Krishna until death. Similarly, his brother Dantavakra continued the same habits. Well, they're not very nice people. Text 19. Although these two men, Sisupala and Dantavakra, repeatedly blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, they were quite healthy. Indeed, their tongues were not attacked by white leprosy, nor did they enter the darkest region of hellish life. We are certainly most surprised by this. Yeah. Purport. Krishna is described by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 10.12 as follows. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. You are the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Abode and Purifier. Herein this is confirmed. Vishnun Yad Brahma Param Avyayam. The Supreme Vishnu is Krishna. Krishna is the cause of Vishnu, not vice versa. Similarly, Brahman is not the cause of Krishna. Krishna is the cause of Brahman. Therefore, Krishna is the Para Brahman. Yad Brahma Param Avyayam. Yeah, he's the cause of everything. Text 20. How was it possible for Sisupala and Dantavakra, in the presence of many exalted persons, to enter very easily into the body of Krishna, whose nature is difficult to attain? Very good question. Let's see what the answer is. Purport. Sisupala and Dantavakra were formerly Jaya and Vijaya, the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. Merging into the body of Krishna was not their final destination. For some time, they remained merged, and later they received the liberations of Sarupya and Salokya, living on the same planet as the Lord in the same bodily form. The Shastras give evidence that if one blasphemes the Supreme Lord, his punishment is to remain in hellish life for many millions of years more. For many millions of years more than one suffers by killing many brahmanas. Sisupala, however, instead of entering hellish life, immediately and very easily received Sayuja Mukti. That such a privilege had been offered to Sisupala was not merely a story. Everyone saw it happen. There was no scarcity of evidence. How did it happen? Maharaj Yudhisthira was very much surprised. Okay, now we're going to learn how this happened. Text 21. This matter is undoubtedly very wonderful indeed. My intelligence has become disturbed, just as the flame of a candle is disturbed by a blowing wind. O Narada Muni, you know everything. Kindly let me know the cause of this wonderful event. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Shastras enjoin Tat Vijnanartam Sagunum iva begachet. When one is perplexed by the difficult problems of life, to solve them, one must approach a guru like Narada or his representative in the disciplic succession. Maharaja Yudhisthira therefore requested Narada to explain the cause for such a wonderful event. Text 22. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, after hearing the request of Maharaj Yudhisthira, Narada Muni, the most powerful spiritual master, who knew everything, was very pleased. Thus he replied in the presence of everyone taking part in the yajna. Text 23. The great sage Sri Naradaji said, O king, blasphemy and praise, chastisement and respect are experienced because of ignorance. The body of the conditioned soul is planned by the Lord for suffering in the material world through the agency of the external energy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita 1861, it is said, Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridise rijunatistati Ramayan sarvabhutani yanchar rudrani maya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. A material body is manufactured by the external energy according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conditioned soul, being seated on this machine, wanders throughout the universe, and because of his bodily conception of life, he only suffers. Actually, the suffering of being blasphemed and the enjoyment of being praised, the acceptance of a good welcome or of chastisement by harsh words are felt in the material conception of life. But since the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not material, but Satchitananda Vigraha, he is unaffected by the insults or greetings, blasphemy or prayers. Being always unaffected and complete, he does not feel extra pleasure when offered nice prayers by the devotee. Although the devotee benefits by offering prayers to the Lord. Indeed, the Lord is very kind to his so-called enemy, because one who always thinks of the personality of Godhead as an enemy also benefits. Yeah, because he's thinking about the Lord. Although he thinks of the Lord adversely. If a conditioned soul, thinking of the Lord as an enemy or a friend, somehow or other becomes attached to the Lord, he receives great benefits. See what happens? Everything is good about Krishna. Whether Krishna liberates someone or kills someone, it's all good. Text 24. My dear king, the conditioned soul, being in the bodily conception of life, considers his body to be his self, and considers everything in relationship with the body to be his. Because he has this wrong conception of life, he is subjected to dualities like praise and chastisement. Yeah, he's affected by those feelings. A genuine devotee is not affected by praise and chastisement. Purport. Only when a conditioned soul accepts the body as himself does he feel the effects of chastisement or praise. Very nice statement. Then he determines one person to be his enemy and another his friend, and wants to chastise the enemy and welcome the friend. This creation of friends and enemies is a result of one's bodily conception of life. That's actually a very profound statement. Very, very profound.
Mm.
Text 25. Because of the bodily conception of life, the conditioned soul thinks that when the body is annihilated, the living being is annihilated. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme controller, the super soul of all living entities. Because he has no material body, he has no false conception of I and mine. It is therefore incorrect to think that he feels pleasure or pain when blasphemed or offered prayers. This is impossible for him. Thus, he has no enemy and no friend. When he chastises the demons, it is for their good, and when he accepts the prayers of the devotees, it is for their good. He is affected neither by the prayers nor by blasphemy. So he's completely neutral, really neutral. Purport: because of being covered by material bodies, the conditioned souls, including even greatly learned scholars and falsely educated professors, all think that as soon as the body is finished, everything is finished. This is due to their bodily conception of life. Krishna has no such bodily conception, nor is his body different from his soul himself. Therefore, since Krishna has no material conception of life, how can he be affected by material prayers and accusations? Krishna's body is described herewith as Kaivalya, non-different from himself. Since everyone has a material body conception of life, if Krishna had such a conception, what would be the difference between Krishna and the conditioned soul? There'd be no difference. Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita are accepted as final because he does not possess a material body. As soon as one has a material body, he has four deficiencies. But since Krishna does not possess a material body, he has no deficiencies. He is always spiritually conscious and blissful. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha. His form is eternal blissful knowledge. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa and Kaivalya are the same. Krishna can expand himself as Paramatma in the core of everyone's heart. In Bhagavad Gita 13.3, this is confirmed. Chitra Gyam Shapimam Vidhi Sarvat Chitrasu Bharata. The Lord is the Paramatma, the Atma or self, super self of all living souls. Therefore, it must naturally be concluded that he has no defective bodily conceptions. Although situated in everyone's body, he has no bodily conception of life. He is always free from such conceptions, and thus he cannot be affected by anything in relation to the material body of the jiva. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 16:19, Tan aham dvisata puran samsaresu naradaman. Ship pramni ajasram asubhan asurish deva yonisu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Whenever the Lord punishes persons like demons, however, such punishment is meant for the good of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, being envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, may accuse him, saying, Krishna is bad, Krishna is a thief, and so on. But Krishna, being kind to all living entities, does not consider such accusations. Instead, he takes account of the conditioned soul's chanting of Krishna, Krishna.
Mhm.
That's an amazing statement. So it says here, I want to read that again. That's really nice. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Whenever the Lord punishes persons like demons, however, such punishment is meant for the good of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, being envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, may accuse him, saying, Krishna is bad, Krishna is a thief, and so on. But Krishna, being kind to all living entities, does not consider such accusations. Indeed, he takes account of the conditioned soul's chanting of Krishna, Krishna, so many times. He sometimes punishes such demons for one life by putting them in a lower species. But then, when they have stopped accusing him, they are liberated in the next life because of chanting Krishna's name constantly. Blaspheming the Supreme Lord or his devotee is not at all good for the conditioned soul. But Krishna, being very kind, punishes the conditioned soul in one life for such sinful activities, and then takes him back home, back to Godhead, because he said the name of Krishna, even though he was blaspheming him. The vivid example for this is Vitrasura, who was formerly Chitraketu Maharaj, a great devotee, because he derided Lord Shiva, the foremost of all devotees. He had to accept the body of a demon called Vitra, but then he was taken back to Godhead. Thus, when Krishna punishes a demon or conditioned soul, he stops that soul's habit of blaspheming him. And when the soul becomes completely pure, the Lord takes him back to Godhead. Therefore, by enmity or by devotional service, by fear or by affection or by lusty desire, by all of these or any one of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. Interesting. Purport. From this verse, one should not conclude that because Krishna is unaffected by favorable prayers or unfavorable blasphemy, one should therefore blaspheme the Supreme Lord. This is not the regulative principle. Bhakti Yoga means Anukul Yena Krishna Silanam. one should serve the Krishna very favorably. This is the real injunction. Here it is said that although an enemy thinks of Krishna unfavorably, the Lord is unaffected by such anti-devotional service. Thus, he offers his benedictions even to Sisapala and similarly inimical conditioned souls. This does not mean, however, that one should be inimical toward the Lord. The stress is given to the favorable execution of devotional service, not purposeful blasphemy of the Lord. It is said, Nindam Bhagavata Srinvams Tat Parasya Janasya Va Tato Napai Pi Ya Supi Yeti Adha Sukritach Shuta. One who hears blasphemy of the Supreme Personality Godhead or his devotees should immediately take action or should leave. Otherwise, he will be put into hellish life perpetually. There are many such injunctions. Therefore, as a regulative principle, one should not be unfavorable toward the Lord, but always favorably inclined towards him. Okay, that's good. Sisapala's achievement of oneness with the Supreme Lord was different because Jaya and Vijaya, from the very beginning of their material existence, were ordained to treat the Supreme Lord as an enemy for 3 lives and then return home back to Godhead. Jaya and Vijaya inwardly knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they purposely became his enemies to be delivered from material life. From the very beginning of their lives, they thought of Lord Krishna as an enemy. And even though blaspheming Lord Krishna, they chanted the holy name of Krishna constantly, along with their inimical thoughts. Thus, they were purified because of chanting the holy name of Krishna. It is to be understood that even a blasphemer can be freed from sinful activities by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Certainly, therefore, freedom is assured for a devotee who is always favorable to the service of the Lord. This will be clear from the following verse. By rapt attention fixed upon Krishna, one is purified, and thus one is delivered from material life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura has very nicely explained the word Vayena, which means by fear. When the gopis went to Krishna in the dead of night, they certainly feared chastisement by their relatives, mothers, fathers, and so forth, their husbands, brothers, and fathers. But nonetheless, not caring for their relatives, they went to Krishna. There was certainly fear, but this fear could not check their devotional service to Krishna. One should not mistakenly think that Lord Krishna must be worshipped by an inimical attitude like that of Sisapala. The injunction is Anukulyasya Grahanam Pratikulyasya Varjanam. One should give up unfavorable activities and accept only favorable conditions in devotional service. Generally, if one blasphemes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is punished. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 16.19, Tanaham Dvisata Kuran Samsaresu Naradamam Shipam Ajasram Asupan Bam Asuris Deva Yonisu. there are many injunctions. One should not try to worship unfavorably, otherwise he must be punished, at least for one life, to be purified. As one should not try to be killed by embracing an enemy, a tiger or snake, one should not blaspheme the Supreme Personality Godhead and become his enemy in order to be put into hellish life. The purpose of this verse is to emphasize that even the enemy of the Lord can be delivered, not to speak of his friend. Madhavacharya also says in many ways that one should not blaspheme Lord Vishnu through one's mind, words, or actions. For a blasphemer will go to will go to hellish life along with his forefathers. Karmana manasa vacha yo dvishyad vishnam avyayam majanti fitarastasya narake saspati sama. In Bhagavad Gita 16, 19, and 20, the Lord says, Tanaham Trisita Tanaham Trisita Kuran, Samsaresu Naradaman, Shipam Yajasram Asubam, Asuris Deva Yonisu, Asurim Yonim Apana, Buddha Janmani, Mam Aprap Yaiva Kontiya, Tato Yanti Adamam Gatim. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life, attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life. Such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. One who blasphemes the Lord is put into a family of asuras, in which there is every chance of forgetting the service of the Lord. Lord Krishna further states in Bhagavad Gita 9.11-12, Avajananti mam buddha manasim tanam asritam param bhavam ajananto mama buddha maheshwaram. Mutas, rascals, blaspheme the Supreme Lord because he appears exactly like a human being. They do not know the unlimited opulence of the Supreme Personality of God.
Maharaj, here, these people attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demonic life, such persons can never approach me. I think we talk about in Christianity, if you go to hell, there is no more
No more getting out of hell.
getting out of hell. But this particular statement seems to indicate something similar, which is attaining repeated birth and again amongst the species of demoniac life. Such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Is that same as the hell condition, right?
Yeah, but uh, the mercy of a pure devotee can liberate someone from hell.
It's the devotees that the
Yeah.
Lord sends,
Yes.
even in those conditions,
Yeah.
to liberate them, potential, pull them out.
Whereas the Christians say, "Oh, if you go to hell, that's it. You can never get out of hell." But no, even if someone is in hell and suffering terribly, if a devotee goes to hell, he can save that person. So the Christians don't have the right understanding.
Mm.
Krishna is always kind, even to the most nefarious persons. So he can do whatever he wants. No one can really understand why Krishna does things. They don't understand the transcendental love and devotion that Krishna has for all living entities, even for the demons. Okay, so that's why it says here, Mutas, rascals, blaspheme the Supreme Lord, because he appears exactly like a human being. They do not know the unlimited opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mogasya moga karmano, moga jnana vichetasa, rakshasya asurim chaiva, pakritim mohinim shrita. Anything done by those who have taken the attitude of enemies will be baffled. Mogasaha. If these enemies try to be liberated or to merge into the existence of Brahman, if they desire to be elevated to the higher planetary systems as karmis, or even if they desire to return home, back to Godhead, they will certainly be baffled. As for Hiranyakashipu, although he was extremely inimical toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he always thought of his son, who was a great devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. Therefore, by the grace of his son, Prahlada Maharaja, Hiranyakashipu was also delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Mm.
So we see how merciful the thoughts and desires of a devotee are. Even though Hiranyakashipu tried to kill Prahlad Maharaj, still he was thinking of Prahlada, and therefore he became purified in many ways. Hiranyakashipu chapi Bhagavan nindayatama vivakshur at yagat sunot Prahlad as yan nubhavata. The conclusion is that one should not give up pure devotional service. For one's own benefit, one should not imitate Hiranyakashipu or Sisupala. This is not the way to achieve success. Yeah. There are people in India that worship Ravana. They think that Krishna is not merciful, and they worship Ravana. So the conclusion is that one should not give up pure devotional service. For one's own benefit, one should not imitate Hiranyakashipu or Sisupala. This is not the way to achieve success. Okay. Text 27. Narada Muni continued, by devotional service, one cannot achieve such intense absorption in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through enmity toward him. That is my opinion. Let me read that again. Narada Muni continued, by devotional service, one cannot achieve such intense absorption in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through enmity towards him,
Wow.
toward Krishna. That is my opinion. Wow. So if you really hate the Lord, that means you're thinking of him all the
On
time.
the tongue. Like Kamsa and
Yeah. Srimad Narada Muni, the topmost pure devotee, praises Krishna's enemies, like Sisupala, because their minds are always completely absorbed in Krishna. Indeed, he thinks himself deficient in the inspiration of being freely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. This does not mean, however, that the enemies of Krishna are more elevated than Krishna's pure devotees. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 5.205. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also thinks of himself as in such a humble way. Jagai Madai Haita Muni Se Papista Purisera Kita Haita Muni Se Lagista. I am a worse sinner than Jagai and Madai, and am even lower than the worms in the stool. A pure devotee always thinks himself more deficient than everyone else. If a devotee approaches Srimati Radharani to offer some service to Krishna, even Srimati Radharani thinks that the devotee is greater than she. Thus, Narada Muni says that according to his opinion, the enemies of Krishna are better situated because they are fully absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna in terms of killing. Just as a very lusty man always thinks of women and their association. Very interesting. Now, should we purposely be an enemy of Krishna? No, not at all. Let's see what Prabhupada says. The essential point in this connection is that one should be fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna 24 hours a day. There are many devotees in Rajamarga, Ragamarga, which is exhibited in Vrindavana. Whether in Dasya Rasa, Sakya Rasa, Vatsalya Rasa, or Madhurya Rasa, all the devotees of Krishna are always overwhelmed by thoughts of Krishna. When Krishna is away from Vrindavana, tending the cows in the forest, the gopis in the Madhurya Rasa are always absorbed in thoughts of how Krishna walks in the forest. The soles of his feet are so soft that the gopis would not dare keep his lotus feet on their soft breasts. The gopis would not dare keep his lotus feet on their soft breasts. Indeed, they consider their breasts as very hard place for the lotus feet of Krishna. Yet those lotus feet wander in the forest, which is full of thorny plants. The gopis are absorbed in such thoughts at home. Although Krishna is always
away from.
Krishna is not always, although Krishna is away from them. Similarly, when Krishna plays with his young friends, Mother Yasoda is very much disturbed by thoughts that Krishna, because of always playing and not taking his food properly, must be getting weak. These are the examples of the exalted ecstasy felt in Krishna's service as manifested in Vrindavana. This service is indirectly praised by Narada Muni in this verse, especially for the conditioned soul. Narada Muni recommends that one somehow or other be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. For that will save one from all the dangers of material existence. Full absorption in thought of Krishna is the highest platform of bhakti yoga. That should not be difficult. Krishna is so beautiful and wonderful. It's not something that's impossible to do, meaning thinking of him all the time. In fact, it's much easier to think of him of all the time than to think of other things because he's so beautiful and so wonderful and so merciful. Someone who has had even a little, let's say, inkling of nectar of Krishna's transcendental pastimes can never forget the Lord. Text 28 and 29. A grass worm confined in a hole of a wall by a bee always thinks of the bee in fear and enmity, and later becomes a bee simply because of such remembrance. Similarly, if the conditioned soul somehow or other think of Krishna, who is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, they will become free from their sin, whether thinking of him as their worshipable Lord or as an enemy. Because of constantly thinking of him, they will regain their spiritual bodies. Okay, that's the transcendental mercy of the Lord, whether one thinks of the Lord with compassion and love or with fear and enmity, uh, they still get purified. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 4:10, the Lord says, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha, Man Maya Mam Upasrita, Bahavo Jnana Tapasa, Putta Mad Bhavam Agata. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. There are two ways of constantly thinking of Krishna. Oh, I'm going to write this down. As a devotee and as an enemy. There it is. A devotee, of course, by his knowledge and tapasya, becomes free from fear and anger and becomes a pure devotee. Similarly, an enemy, although thinking of Krishna inimically, thinks of him constantly and also becomes purified. This is confirmed elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 9.30, where the Lord says, Apichet sudara charo bhajanti mam ananyabhak sadar eva samantavya samyad vyavasito hisaha. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he engages in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. A devotee undoubtedly worships the Lord with rapt attention. Similarly, if an enemy, Sudarachara, always thinks of Krishna, he also becomes a purified devotee. The example given here concerns the grassworm that becomes bee-like because of constantly thinking of the bee. That forces it to enter a hole. By always thinking of the bee in fear, the grassworm starts to become a bee. This is a practical example. Lord Krishna appears within his material within this material world for two purposes. Parikranaya sadhunam vinasaya chatusritam, to protect the devotees and annihilate the demons. The sadhus and devotees certainly think of the Lord always, but Duskritis, the demons like Kamsa and Sisupala, also think of Krishna in terms of killing him. By thinking of Krishna, both the demons and the devotees attain liberation from the clutches of material Maya. There it is. This verse uses the word Maya Manuje. When Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears in his original spiritual potency, Sambhavami Atmamayaya, He is not forced to accept a form made by material nature. Therefore, the Lord is addressed as Ishvara, the controller of Maya. He is not controlled by Maya. When a demon continuously thinks of Krishna because of enmity toward him, he is certainly freed from the sinful reactions of his life. To think of Krishna in any way, in terms of his name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, or anything pertaining to him, is beneficial for everyone. Shinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. Thinking of Krishna, hearing the holy name of Krishna, or hearing the pastimes of Krishna will make one pure. And then he will become a devotee. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to induce the system of somehow or other letting everyone hear the holy name of Krishna and take Krishna's prasada. Thus, one will gradually become a devotee and his life will be successful. Yeah, that's why when we go on Harinam Sankirtan, we chant loudly. We want people to hear the name of Krishna. And some people get angry and they sometimes even blaspheme the devotees for chanting loudly. But they're focusing on Krishna when they do that, which means that they become unwittingly purified. Text 30.
Time check, Maharaj.
Okay, yeah, time is over. All right, so we'll stop. And our takeaway for today is the following. Thinking of Krishna, hearing the holy name of Krishna, or hearing the pastimes of Krishna will make one pure, and then he will become a devotee. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to induce the system of somehow or other letting everyone hear the holy name of Krishna and take Krishna's prasada. Thus, one will gradually become a devotee and his life will be successful. That is our takeaway for today. Somehow or other, a devotee tries to help people say the name of Krishna. Think of Krishna, remember Krishna, worship Krishna, serve Krishna, etc. And that way, one will gradually become a devotee and his life will be successful. So that's why whenever someone calls me on the phone, I always say, Hare Krishna. I don't say hello. Right? And when I say hello to someone, I say Hare Krishna. When I want to say hello, I say Hare Krishna. And when I hang up the phone, I say Hare Krishna. And then people catch on to it. And they eventually say Hare Krishna also. So you never make a mistake by saying Hare Krishna. That's the point. If you say Hare Krishna, everybody is benefited, your friend and your enemy. So we should always say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And it says, our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to induce the system of somehow or other, letting everyone hear the holy name of Krishna and take Krishna's prasada. Thus, one will gradually become a devotee and his life will be successful. So that should be our purpose. Somehow or other, trying to induce the system of somehow or other, letting everyone hear the holy name of Krishna and take Krishna's prasada. Thus, one will gradually become a devotee and his life will be successful. That is our takeaway for today. Shinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. Thinking of Krishna, hearing the holy name of Krishna, or hearing the pastimes of Krishna will make one pure, and then he will become a devotee. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to induce the system of somehow or other, letting everyone hear the holy name of Krishna and take Krishna's prasada. Thus, one will gradually become a devotee and his life will be successful. There we are. Therefore, we should always say Hare Krishna. Let them say Hare Krishna at least one time in their life. Haribol. All right, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions or comments? Questions or comments? Okay, no questions, no comments. Then, my dear devotees, we will adjourn this uh, this seance and continue. What is it? 11 hours from now. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. In fact, chant all the time Hare Krishna and be happy. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Yeah, I did a program yesterday at somebody's house. Everybody chanted Hare Krishna. It was nice.